And a lot of times, we'll talk a little bit about facility design here as well. This is, how many of you have actually seen or used a bud box? Several of you have. It's getting to be more and more people have seen that. It's not necessarily that I think they're a better tool, it's just easier to set up for demos than anything else. Because you can take 5 panels and make you a bud box, okay? So a bud box is designed to take, remember those 5 basic principles of cattle behavior I talked about? They want to be able to see you, go around you, follow one another, think of one main thought at a time. Those are all things, I think that was just 4. What did I leave out? But anyways, the cattle come in here, they can't go anywhere, so they want to take the pressure off. So when they turn around, they're going to be coming around me because I'm going to be up here by the opening. They're going to follow one another out, and that's going to be their main thought, is to get out of here. So that's why a bud box works as well as it does if you use it correctly. The cattle, it makes sense to them. Now at breakfast this morning we were talking about sweep systems. And there are sweep systems that work just as effectively. Dr. Temple Grandin, builds most of hers are 270-degree sweeps. So the cattle actually go out, come around the pivot post, and come back out basically the same direction they went in. That's very similar to what we have here, isn't it? They go in, they come back out about where they came in. There's another sweep system, and I was talking to the gentleman this morning about, is a 135-degree sweep. And there's a lot of small cow-calf people that I think that's probably what they ought to put in, and rather than a bud box or a big sweep. There's about 4 companies that make those. And the way they're designed, the cattle actually come in. They don't go all the way around the sweep. They kind of go up into a corner, and then when they turn, they come right back out by where they went into the sweep. So those 135-degree sweeps work just like a bud box does. But you have the advantage of that sweep gate. So think about that as well as you're looking at some of these. There's a lot of 190 or 180-degree sweeps, and there's also quite a few 90-degree sweeps. Most of those have the same issue. If you put them in there and you're pushing that gate around, the cattle start turning circles in the sweep. That's normally because if we're over there pushing this latch, we're actually drawing their eye back toward us. And so we start them circling. We've lost contact with the front, so we can't control the front. As we were talking this morning, we can actually maybe not use the gate and use our body to get them to go around that gate post and on into the chute. Very similar to what we would do here. Now in most setups, this would probably just be a straight alley out of here. And so you could load them into the alley from either direction and bring them into a bud box or sweep. I'll try to just get a few of them out and go, we may just take the whole group in the bud box this first time, since they're not used to it. Now you wouldn't want to put this many cattle in a bud box if you were going to try to bring them out. You really want to put as many in there that will fit in the lead up to your chute, okay? And so it's all about getting the cattle to flow in and flow out. Okay. That's a pretty controlled little move right there. I like that. So now I'm just going to sit here a minute and see if they'll come out. If they won't, I'll go put pressure on them. Because I want them to learn to come out of that bud box. They're pretty happy right where they are, aren't they? But now as they start thinking about it, and I'm still up here at the front, the reason I would like for them to come back out on their own is I want them to learn to come by me. But if they don't, and they probably would, if I'd back off and take more pressure off, they would probably come out of there. But now I can step in and I can actually create the draw to bring them out. By just stepping right here, see I've started my flow out? It's a great way to train cattle to come by you. So anytime you change pens, locations with your cattle, have them come by you. You two little rascals. You know what? That's all it's probably gonna take to get them to come out. Their point of balance is not what it ought to be. But I want them to learn to come by me. I may have to put a little more pressure on them to get it done, but they need to learn it's okay to come past me. All right. So if we think about point of balance, it's normally drawn as a line right on the point of the shoulder. So if we're in front of that, the cattle will move away from us. If we're behind it, they'll move forward. That really applies when cattle are in the lead up to the chute. Any other location, it doesn't apply that much. I always want the cattle to have a point of balance that's much further out in front of them than that. That way I can draw them to me. Just like here, I'm gonna put pressure on them to where they'll turn and come to me. So I can train on them basically for a bud box right here. They can take that pressure off if they'll come by me. So we've just changed point of balance, haven't we? They're all coming by me and I didn't have to do anything. And I can send them into that box. All right, all about pressure and release. And notice they're like, we don't really need to go in the box anymore. But I want them to get to where you can control this aspect of it. So, and this is another thing, we can't use the chute and the lead up in this setup because we don't have alley bows and we don't have a way to keep them from backing out. So in a minute, I'll run a few in here and we'll run them through the chute. This is a good place to turn them to go away from you. These cattle are not wanting to do that either. They still want to turn to me. So that's something over time, I'd have to work with these cattle to get them where they'll turn around, because if they'll turn the other way, it just makes it that much easier. Y'all gonna do it again? Same two. All right. Now then, they're gonna go through, we had a question yesterday about training these cattle to go through the chute, and whether or not we closed the head gate before we started that process, so they didn't just run through. I don't. Normally, his concern was you'd teach the cattle to go through your system too quick. And so when you are trying to process them, they might hit the head gate too quick. But my contention is, as you move to the front, you're gonna slow their motion down, and you can use your head gate to do that. So when I'm training cattle, I don't worry about that. So now I'm just going to try to put the same pressure. I'm just going to take 4 or 5 of them at a time. And so this is really good. I like these little pins like this because I can bring just a few, cut the others off. And now when they come out, I'm in a position where I can redirect them, draw their eye around, and send them 2 by 2. I didn't mean to do that. But when you teach them to do all that, they learn to kind of come around you. Now these are like, well, how'd they get out of here? That's cheating, isn't it? Got 6 left, I'll bring 3 of you. But once again, that whole getting them to where you can start them and stop them, now I can stop this calf and just bring the 3 I want. See how smart they are? If I do this twice, these cattle will not go to the back of this box. They'll turn and go down and out. Now I would like to stay, I'm gonna draw his eye around. Now I can put pressure on him to go out. Now that's a whole lot easier than what I see some people doing in their crowd sweeps in the processing areas. If your cattle are really wild, you don't have to be in there with them. You can work a bud box from the outside as well. I bet old Biggin knows how to get out of here too. Yeah, it's amazing how smart they are. We just give them a chance. Just by watching the other cattle, they figured out how to get out of this system. That just fascinates me. It's that. So a lot of our demos, we have to put a back gate on here so the cattle don't get out too quick. All right, if we have questions as we go through this, I'd be glad to answer any questions, or if you have an argument, I'll take them too. Any questions? Yes?
So how does this change if you add cattle in it? So if you're working with a group of pairs.
The question was, how does this change if you're working with pairs versus yearlings or feedlot cattle, right? It doesn't really change. You've got to, in my opinion, you got to start the process of getting that cow to take her calf. We talked a little bit about that in rotating pastures. They'll walk off and leave the calf. So as soon as that calf is born and it can get up and go, and probably after it's nursed a bit, it wouldn't hurt if you have the chance to move that pair. And so she learns to take that calf, and the calf learns to go with her. The next thing you can do is, once you do that, and here's where, if you call cattle to you with feed or they follow you, we start separating cows and calves, because the cows will follow faster than the calves do. So that's the only reason I see not to call pairs to you. If the calves follow, that's fine. If they don't, what happens? It's a mess. You got calves everywhere, right? So even if I'm calling cows and having them follow a feed truck, somebody needs to be behind, and the person in front has to go slow enough that the cows don't trot away from the calves. They at least stay close enough to them. Then you can have somebody behind them, or even a dog behind them, to keep the calves moving forward. So that to me is a reason not to call cows to you when they have pairs. When you have pairs, you can do it any other time, it works fine. But that is something you've got to work on to get those cows to take the calves with them. But as far as moving them, no different. This would be a really good place to sort cow-calf pairs. If I had a small group, I'd put the cows in here, cows and calves, and then let the cows out. And I see a lot of people try to cut calves off cows. Don't do that. Always get the cows off the calves. Now, some of you have probably seen the videos where they'd actually have a half gate or something that the calves could go under. Those work pretty good. The thing that you're not doing is training the calf at that point in time. All he's doing is getting by. So at some point in time, you still have to train that calf to take pressure and do the things we need him to do. That answer your question? Maybe? Any other questions? I like doing these demos with pairs, but they get to bawling too much, nobody can hear anything. I actually prefer to do them with pairs. Now that was all pretty uneventful for these little buggers. They've still got some flight to them, but it's not anything major. It's not controllable at this point in time. Now we just ran them through the chute. It wasn't any big deal, was it? So I want to try to get these cattle to move on up a little further. If that doesn't work, you run off, you're going to have to go back around again. Once they go through, sometimes they do get a little sticky about going back in there. He's gonna learn eventually. Like, dadgummit. And the rest of his buddies already figured out, why should we follow him? He's just gonna have to come back anyway. Now, if they get to where they won't move, notice I added a little sound, and how much impact it had, I just slapped the side of my leg. Now, that's the first time that old calf's turned away from me. Now I need to put some pressure on these front ones. Get them to go ahead and take the gate, maybe. Don't run off. Now I've got them set up to go if I can just get these to turn and focus. Now we're getting ready to go. Now see, as I step up here, these turn too. That's why I don't like them turning back on me all the time. It's kind of creating that issue. Now here we'll see if we can turn this little bugger back around or back him back in there, either one. This one, if it come around, it would be better. These old big calves, they're cracking me up. They know that they can get out of this deal. Now I want to move him up enough then that I can send him around the front. It's funny, every time he hides that one, it takes off. Like he can't see me, he can't see me. Oh, you want to run off so bad, don't you? Now he's going to give me a chance to put some pressure on him, make him move a little bit. He's getting kind of sticky. He may have just been tolerating me all this time. It's funny, just the pressure going through that chute. And look at him now, he's gonna bump a few, maybe. You think you can sneak out of there too, huh? Now this is where we've got cattle going different directions, so they're not going to go through the gate yet because I don't have them set up right. Now if I get putting too much pressure, if I back off, I can stop it a little easier. And now I'm going to send him back into the group a little harder. Oh, spook. Go get in the bud box, safe over there. All right. Now this is also a place where I've actually let them get a little bit dead. So I may actually be better off to start over and move them out than I would be to just stand here with them. But we'll see if I can get some of them going. Because as they come back with a little more action. There we go. You can get them set up and find you a hole to push on, it works. All right. Now, that right there, most people would lose their mind, take that much time to get them around that corner. But if I do, they learn to take the pressure a little bit better. It's all a training exercise. And if you had two people, you could put more pressure and don't have those gaps where they could get out, and you can get it done a whole lot quicker. All right. Now we'll see if they'll, I don't know if I can keep them from going down the bud box or out of the bud box quicker. But they learned how to do this pretty quick, but I also want them to learn that it's not any big deal to do it. And so when you do process these cattle, it gets easier and easier over time. It's interesting, when you do it this way, the flightier cattle normally come out first, because as you put that pressure on them, They're looking for a way to escape. But once again, you can step in here. I want to be able to draw that first one out. Now I'm going to try to slow them down a little more. I didn't, first time these little wild ones kind of jammed up in the corner, didn't they? But by staying more at the front, I can slow that down and get them to come out as they need to. And if you get one in the back like that that's throwing a hissy, don't stay in there and get hurt. You can always turn him out and bring some more cattle with him. We'll do this, then we'll do one more talking about processing up the chute area. Yeah, it gets way too easy. If I step in here, I can draw his eye around. Now just as he gets up there, got to go up a little further, bud. There it is. Now I'm gonna step back and draw his eye into it and send him down there. So it gets easy once you learn how to draw an eye and push on an eye, and you don't have to send them all the way to the box. A lot of times cows will always go in there anyway, but they figured out that's a pretty easy way to get out of here. We'll talk a little bit more about what I think some things we need to talk about on the chute processing side of it.